Hi guys, in this video I'll tell you if Owen Dwyer's newest book called Number Games is a good book, is it worth a read. I'll let you know what you might like and what you might not like about it. Also near the end I'll show you what famous movie it resembles. So make sure you'll watch this video to the end. Of course, like it, share it, subscribe to my channel and click on this notification bell to see my next video. And let me know in comments, guys, of course, what you think about my review and this book. So in today's video I wanted to say a few words about the book that had its premiere around this time 2 years ago. The book was written by a very talented Irish author, Owen Dwyer, and it is called Number Games. It's a great science fiction story and I really recommend to put your hands on it. You can buy it actually by clicking on the link below. Owen Dwyer is a very successful Irish businessman who, as far as I know, created his own finance insurance company from the scratch. Of course, he's also a writer, and this book is actually not his first one. I admit I didn't get a chance to read previous stories he wrote, it just didn't happen, but I'm planning to catch up with his old titles shortly, which is already sort of a recommendation of this author and his writing. And of course, I'm very interested to read stuff he will write in future, because no doubt he's on growing path in terms of writing, and I'll expect he'll create something really significant shortly. So honestly, keep your eye on him. I had the pleasure to actually meet Owen in person. He's extremely intelligent, very friendly, and very good man. He has great sense of humor and unbelievable storytelling talent. He's also very humble. I didn't know he's a writer for around 3 years since meeting him for the first time. That's how humble this man is. Like, I didn't write anything in my life, but I tell you in this video that I did create some crap in the past. And now I'll share with you my 100% honest opinion about his latest book. Before starting, just wanted to give you also idea what type of reader I am. Yeah, I'm not humble. Last book I've read was Socrates of Ryszard Legutko. Definitely not a fiction book. Not trying to show off here, well, maybe a little bit, but I think that's making me not just an average reader. A good few years ago I've shifted away from fiction, with all due respect to it, because at some stage I started feeling that most of the time books like that, it's just empty entertainment, and with age I did start to expect more from literature. I kind of lost hunger for fiction in general. These days I want to learn from stuff I read as something new, something that I didn't know before. I expect a lot from books these days. I treat them seriously, even if they are not serious books, and I also read them really carefully, getting annoyed with every little mistake I'm able to notice. I also make notes like that when I read books, to save important facts which they include, because there's simply no way for any of us to memorize books contents for any longer period. This way I can go back to my favorite or interesting books without reading them all over again. It takes me minutes to check what they're about by just going through those notes. It's the same in case of this review. Without notes, after 2 years since I've read this book, it would be only sort of impression about it. Basically, I would only know what it's about, but thanks to my notes, I can go pretty deep in talking about it here. Saying all that, on the other hand, my favorite two titles, not books but movies, are Terminator 2 with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey. What tells you a lot about my taste, that I'm kind of still normal. In other words, I don't mind science fiction or a silly story, but it has to be good. I mentioned I shifted away from fiction, and Owen's book is actually a science fiction story. So I was not too keen to read it, saying the truth at the start. But I decided to force myself, and I totally not regret it. It's really great book, and it's far more than just an average sci-fi Like most stories of this type, it's all happening in the future. Initially, I was a bit confused about it, but no doubt it's happening in the future. Before I'll get actually into the details, I wanted to say a few words about the cover. Well, maybe about the title first. The title is pretty unfortunate, in my opinion, because there's no way, at least for me, to memorize it. And I'm confident I'm not the only one with this problem. I'm never sure if it's number games or numbers game or number game. Just never have a freaking clue. And from author's perspective, I think it's pretty important for people to remember the title of your book. On the other hand, when I think about it, this title might be catchy when potential readers will be making, for example, some Google search, because obviously these words, numbers and games, are surely very popular words. So it maybe has some sense. And now the cover. Of course, one can't judge book by its cover, but I'll be not judging the book here, only the cover itself. It looks really cool. We have that futuristic picture here that will actually stay in our memory for a long time. Neat, eye-catching, definitely progress in compared to covers of Owen's previous books. Suits obviously the story and introducing to ourselves that futuristic world that we are about to explore when reading this book. So that will be the cover. Now I will briefly describe what book is actually about. So we have this fella whose name I forgot now. It's easy obviously for me to check this, but I don't think it's important at all. That fella, he kind of reminds me Winston from George Orwell's 1984, and in my head I call him Winston too. To be honest, now I don't think it was a coincidence. High chances are he was an archetype for this character in Owen's book. He's living in the world that is being ruled by women. World ruled by women. Great idea for a story, obviously. I can't actually remember from the book how that happened, that woman took over the world, but idea itself is obviously very cool. Not a new idea for me, but I will come back to this a little bit later. At first glance, that world ruled by women looks like it's running perfectly, but it's actually just waiting there to fall apart shortly. This reminds a typical totalitarian reality, where there's simply loads of baloney on surface, covering massive hidden mess. So obviously from that angle, book seems to be critics of totalitarian systems and ideas. Those totalitarian systems are always trying to make people happy by forcing them to be happy, which obviously is impossible and pure madness. And at the end of this road, there's always mass murdering. The main character throughout the book is going through that typical awakening process, from sort of every man who doesn't really see what's going on around him. He's turning into the one who is about to expose and destroy the whole system. As I said, it's very similar to Orwell's 1984, and also to probably more commonly known these days, Matrix. I must say I was slightly disappointed that the main idea, woman ruling the world, was not explored deeper by Owen. But it's a good disappointment, because basically I'm saying that I would like Owen to write more about it. Because the idea is so mind-blowing, and I'm so sure one can create a very interesting world full of mad situations and stories based on it. I can't say that Owen was not trying to create that world. I just wish to get more of all this, because it's such a tasty idea. It feels like the author would only settle on creating just like a skeleton of that world, which is not satisfying enough. You simply stay hungry after finishing the book. Again, underlying that this is a good complaint. Obviously, if he would go crazy with building and showing that world, then book would probably at least triple in size. But so what? I like fat books. I actually love fat books. As I said, the whole idea of woman ruling the world is not new to me. There's actually a very famous Polish comedy from the 80s called Sex Mission, made by Juliusz Machulski. If I wouldn't know that movie, then maybe the world created in Owen's book would be good enough for me. Maybe I would be surprised by it and I wouldn't complain that I want more. But the fact that I grew up knowing Sex Mission took the whole freshness effect away. I obviously recommend that movie to anyone who is excited about that idea of woman taking over the world. This 80s comedy is a great supplement to Owen's book. It's old, and for years I was avoiding it when I was young, but when I grew up, I was able to finally appreciate it. So really recommend it. You can find link to this movie in the description below if you wish to check it out. I must say I was surprised that the book was actually going a bit deeper than I was expecting. Owen tangled into the story some general facts about the world, and that part I find very valuable here. You can kind of see that the author is not really that much focused on the story. He's more interested in sharing with us his thoughts and ideas about world and human condition in general. He's all the time trying to develop a little discussion about various ideas. The whole story is more of a pretext to tell us few things about the world. I like that because it pushed the book towards more serious, more ambitious stuff, similar to those I usually read. There were a good few thoughts and ideas that I've enjoyed clashing with and to listen to. And there's actually even few interesting quotes that one can take out from this book. So for that part, especially, I think it's really worth reading it. One of the problems I have with this book is its lack of clarity. Maybe it's my fault, maybe I've read it too carelessly, but maybe the author should put more stress on explaining the reader what's actually going on at a particular moment and who are the characters reader is looking at. He should remind us from time to time, I think, who is who and what's actually happening, because I think it's getting often pretty confusing. Obviously, the reader is not seeing the world the same way author is, and sometimes needs help or a lot of help from side of the author. Author knows everything, but we don't. He can't expect us to remember what was on the fifth page of the book when we are now in the middle of it. He should just explain us whatever the thing is again. Otherwise, you lose interest because it's not worthwhile for me with that sort of book to keep going back to check some essentially irrelevant facts. So, lack of clarity regarding action. Obviously, it's very common in books and movies that suddenly we don't know what's going on or we wonder where the heck that guy came from. Of course, it's very easy for me to criticize his book from the level of my coach, where basically I do nothing. To write a book is very hard task to complete, no doubt about it. It takes a lot of time. It's very, very time consuming. It takes hard work and obviously talent too. I was trying that myself and failed miserably every time right at the start. It takes so much time to write 30 shitty pages, even when using massive, huge font. And then when you read it, it totally doesn't sound like stuff you were actually trying to write earlier. For some odd reason, it usually turns into crap. And it's very different in case of Owen. He has really massive talent. There's no doubt Owen can write. His sentences are very clear. Everything seems to be flowing. Vocabulary is very rich. What's especially visible for a foreigner like myself, who often reads books using dictionary at the same time. The more I need to use a dictionary, the more I respect the book and the author. There's no spelling or editorial errors here also, as far as a foreigner can judge it, of course. And I must say, some of my favorite books are full of spellings and editorial mistakes. And I see them in many books, so always appreciate when the work text is in technical order. When you see mistakes, you get that feeling that the author has no respect for you, that he was probably rushing trying to sell the book as quick as possible, and you have no faith in a person like that and in the facts that book contains, assuming particular books was based on facts. That's technical side anyway, but just want to stress again that Owen can really write, that he knows how to use the pen, and that means that his every next work will be better and better. Shortly he will write something that has a chance to become really extraordinary, like a proper classic. It's just a matter of time. It's kind of common sense that there's no magic, and Owen needs to write few books first before he will write something really, really good. I'm more than sure that he's going in the right direction anyway, and he's pretty darn close, because he knows how to write, so he doesn't need to worry about that part. It's all about getting the right story now every time and fully exploring it. One of the astonishing things about this book for me was lack of anecdotes, especially funny ones. Again, it's sort of a good complaint that I wish author to give us more. I know that Owen has sleeves full of them. He's very talented speaker, he's great storyteller, very outgoing person. And despite all that, there's basically zero anecdotes in the book. Like he would intentionally stay away from that kind of writing. And maybe he did, maybe he thought it would be too trivial. For me, anecdotes would make everything more interesting. It's just strange why he wouldn't include little funny tales in his work. That was just a little bit odd for me, to be honest. Another little accusation I have against this book is that it's pretty vulgar. I'm not sure if that's the right word, because I basically never use it. Vulgar language used here and constant dirty sex references are probably not necessary in this book. If there would be any justification for it in the story, I could maybe understand it, but I don't think there was a need for that most of the time. Thing is, the older I'm getting, the less understanding I have for using bad language. And trust me, I was cursing a lot in my life, probably more than most of you. But I think I grew up from that, and I try to stay away from it as much as possible. But maybe it's all in correct proportions, and it's simply just me being old here. Again, my other favorite movie of all times is Pulp Fiction, which is full of cursing. And funny story, years back when I was preparing play based on Pulp Fiction with local amateur theater, I actually quit only because the director wanted to replace cursing with some soft synonymous. I was about to play Vincent Vega, if it matters. I was young then, so cursing was cool for me that time. Even now I see justification of that language in Pulp Fiction, but I didn't really see it in this book. And when there are bad things showed in the story and they have no justification to be there, I can only think that they are there only to sell the book or movie, to shock those who can be shocked with it, obviously, and to satisfy really bad tastes. That reminds me my favorite quote from certain Will Smith's rap song, saying, write one verse without a curse. Will Smith obviously is representing pretty soft hip hop, but he made me think that time about necessity of cursing, since I was trying to do some rap also. That's my lack of humbleness showing up again. I think cursing is often only a way to feel emptiness or to shock. And I'm sure this particular book wouldn't lose anything if all that bad language would be replaced with just regular talk. It just doesn't fit. And that is being said, and I want to stress that by one of the biggest Pulp Fiction fans. Another thing is the way sex is depicted in the book. It's sort of a filthy, dirty way. Some people will obviously love it, but in my case, and it could be again the fact that I'm getting old, I'm just not interested in looking at ugly things, or in case of book, imagining ugly things. Transgression was interesting, shocking, and was appealing to me when I was teenager. But these days it just pushes me away, because most of the time I sense that the author is not really showing me the real world, but he or she just want to shock me to get my attention. Especially, I don't like when creators are showing everything as ugly, every aspect of life, only to ignite our disgust. It's author's choice, of course, to show the world the way he or she wants, but it's the question for the author. Does he really want to show things, here I mean sex specifically, in unpleasing light? I know it's selling and people love it, but it's simply not for me. Of course, it's a matter of taste, and obviously stuff like that has its place in the world too. Connected with this is the fact that one of the main motives appearing often in the book is porn, pornography. Uh, the main character seems to use it a lot, which is not shocking, but I don't think it's necessary to constantly tell the reader about it. It has zero impact on the story, at least in my opinion, unless I missed something there. That pornography is really casual here, and kind of makes you feel uncomfortable. And just to be clear, there's no actual pornography here. It's all about the fact that we are observing that main character is a heavy porn user. Again, I wouldn't mind if I would see any point in it, if it would have any meaning for the story. But I think it's there only for reasons I've mentioned before, to shock reader a little bit. Maybe it's supposed to show the character of our hero, but I don't think something like that can do that, and surely there's simply too much of that across the pages of the book. It's actually interesting that this subject, I mean pornography, despite being mad common thing, is basically, and thanks God of course, not existing in everyday pop culture like literature, cinema, TV, music, etc. It remains a taboo, and it's still hidden. I know it's slowly getting to the mainstream, and that makes me, and should make everyone sad. I can't imagine digesting culture soaked with porn. It's not culture anymore then. For some reason, creators do leave that subject alone. They know this will not add real value to their art, and they are 100% right about it. Same here. It's not adding anything to the story. On top of everything, porn is a serious problem of this world, especially in this century. It's maybe one of the most serious problems actually, and if anyone is touching it, I think it should be done in gentle manner. Again, it's not author's duty to be socially responsible, etc. But just saying, just saying. Also, assuming that someone would make a movie out of this book, what I think is possible. I can't imagine showing the main character every few scenes watching porn, etc. I think it's not interesting for anyone for a reason. It's like making a Rocky movie and showing character jerking off or watching porn every few scenes. Do we really need that? Exactly. My final complaint would be about the fact that there's too many financial business related bits, motives in the book. You can feel that they don't belong here really, that they are sort of pushed into the book. I can understand that it's probably really hard not to try to share great knowledge one gathered during many years of working in the business. Of course, maybe for our readers it would sound like revelation and very interesting. Few years back maybe it would be same for me too, possibly, but at this stage it just felt a bit odd. It would be similar, I think, if some banker, for example, would be writing a book about horses, and he would be keep sticking into it references like how to recognize the difference between genuine and fake bank check, or telling us how secured are bank vaults. It just wouldn't feel right in a book about horses, no matter how cool those bank bits would be. Uh, and now for a change, let's move to some other positive stuff that I want to mention too. There's actually one tiny gem that I got from this book. It regards people with Down syndrome. It was very interesting to see that Owen managed to show the world where people with Down syndrome basically don't exist. They got almost totally eradicated. A big question is being raised here, intentionally or unintentionally, if this is what we really want as a humankind. And unfortunately, this is not a fiction. It's one of the most valuable pieces in this book, in my opinion. Little thing, but it's huge. Not sure if the author was planning to write it the way I've received it, to be honest, but that's the way I saw it. Finally, the idea I really liked about the book was the motive of traveling on bikes around Europe. It's not a major motive in the book, but I really liked it because it reminded me one of my other favorite books, where two Polish lads are riding on bikes across France. It's happening during Second World War. So this brought those warm memories I have for the book called Wartime Notebooks, written by Andrzej Bobkowski. Title of it was horribly translated, by the way. In Polish it sounds more like Sketches with Feather. You can find link to this work in the description below. Really, really great book. And basically, and that will be it. This would be my main thoughts that I have about Owen Dwyer's book, which titled, unfortunately, I already forgot. Probably it's Number Games. It's great read. Subject, I mean, woman ruling the world, is super cool. Book is filled with many interesting thoughts, so it's not only a typical science fiction story, but also a small intellectual ride. I really recommend it, and you can actually get it straight away by clicking on the link below. I'm sure Owen is writing another book right now, and also surely he has idea for many more. No doubt about it, no doubt about it. And be ready, guys, because shortly he should write something really, really big. There's massive potential here. If you want to hear my thoughts about particular bits from this book, and listen to my favorite quotes from it, please watch my next video. I think you will enjoy it far more than this one. To be sure you will not miss this next video, please subscribe and click on that notification bell too. I hope you had enjoyed watching this video. If you want me to make more videos like that, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. And as I said, hit of course this notification bell too. Let me know also in comments below what you think about my review and this book, if you had a chance to read it, of course. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next one.